Samantha at As They Grow Up, and this is our week 13 homeschool update. Before I begin, I have to ask, how was your week? Our week was pretty good. It went well. We had a field trip actually scheduled for this week that we were kind of looking forward to, and we got there and no one was there. So that was kind of a bummer because we are doing the Christian filmmaking lessons, and I'll share more about that with you guys later, but we love those. But anyway, because of that, we were really excited about this particular field trip. It was at a local art gallery, and they also do commercials and things like that for some of the local businesses, and so they were going to show us some of that. But as I mentioned, we went, but there was nobody there, nobody showed up. That, or we were at the wrong location. Not really sure which one that is. So there was that. It was kind of disappointment, but you know, what do? You just go on with your day. We also took Luke to get his very first library card. Davis has had a library card since he's probably been 3 or so. And Luke's just always used Davis's library card. And so we decided this past weekend to take Luke and surprise him and get him a library card, because he is, without a doubt, my little bookworm. And he was so excited. I'm going to be putting a video up to show you guys just him just getting his little card and stuff. He did love that. But he was just so excited getting his library card. So that was really fun. And so he picked out a couple of books, and some of the books he got that would be some of the stuff that we were studying this past week with our homeschool. So he picked that out, and as soon as we got home, he's like, so when's the library opening again? I need to go back. So he has wanted to go back, but we're waiting. We didn't go back this past week, even though he wanted to, because Davis is working on finishing one of his books, and that way they can just take them all back together. So, and plus, some of the books that Luke checked out we were using for our school this week, so we'll probably go back on Tuesday because our library is closed on Sunday and Monday. So we'll probably go back on Tuesday with that. But other than that, the week has went great. We have not had any snags. The boys, with the time change, they have been up early every morning, and we got this really cool alarm clock, and it is so neat. It does not wake Luke up. He is definitely his father's son. It's really neat because I set the alarm, and it goes off first with little birds singing, and then it starts crowing like a rooster. So it's getting Davis up, so we're able to start the day earlier, and I feel like we're just getting so much more done because we're able to start the day. So, but on to some of the things that we have been studying this week, covering. First off, I changed Davis's language arts. We have been doing Apologia, and I love, love, love the Apologia. But it was getting a little overwhelming for Davis. It was moving a little faster than he was comfortable with, and that's okay. We put it aside, and we'll start it again next year if he's ready. But we did switch it to the first language lessons. And I love these books, The Well-Trained Mind. It's very hands-on. But with Davis, I have to be very hands-on. I've always been very hands-on with him. I've tried to let him do the independent studies, and he's last year he ventured out and wanted to do some of the school that's available on the computer, and he just wasn't getting it. So with him, I have to be very hands-on, and that's okay because I enjoy it. I enjoy being hands-on. And so we started this. We've been doing this for about 2 weeks now, and I love it. I do this with Luke's first grade and have enjoyed every minute of it. And he has learned so much, and so I started this with Davis, and he loves it as well. I mean, yes, it's a lot of repetition, but that's okay, because that's how he learns. And so, like with Luke, he does poems and stuff, and Davis so far has not, but we also have the curriculum that we do the poems, so I'll talk more about that later as well, because they just love it. But anyway, if you haven't checked these out, do check this out, especially if you have one that's hesitant when it comes to language arts. These are great. So we have that. We did switch to that, and I'll do a more in-depth with that later. Davis is still on the Civil War in his history. So this week, he did some really neat stuff. He did this little pull-out, and we're doing the pockets, as I had mentioned. So he did the little pull-out here, and this was about the slaves part of the Civil War. So he did that, and then we also did these, and each one has, like, this is John Brown. We have Frederick Douglass. We have Harriet Tubman and Sojourn. We have her, and they have stuck her in there. Not very good. There we go. Sojourn Truth. And so these are really neat. It has that, and then I'll admit they would look better if they were colored, but he is not one that likes to do art, and that's okay because I basically want him to learn this anyway. And then these are just some high points to remember on each one of those. So these were awesome. They were so fun, and we have learned so much with that. We also did a video, watched a video, and talked about cotton and how the cotton industry was on the rise, and the pros and the cons when it came to things like that. So we learned a lot this past week on that. So that was what Davis covered as far as history goes. Spelling went great. He is still just trucking right along. I love the spelling we're using. I have no complaints. So this past week was a review. So the cool thing is that Davis and Luke somehow have ended up being side by side in their spelling. So when one has a review week, the other has a review week, which is nice for me. Now, I don't know how long we'll stay on that schedule, I guess until somebody gets kind of hung up on some spelling words and we have to kind of slow down and practice on those a little more. But for right now, it's going great. And then to go along with Davis's Civil War, we got this to do some extra reading on, and I love this. This is such an awesome book, but I'll talk more about that later. But it's really neat. It's got activities in it, and it's got pictures, and it just gives such an in-depth look. So that was a plus that we added to our school this week. And now with Luke, math. Oh, Davis with math. Like I mentioned, we're kind of slowing down. We're doing our math facts. And I just really think that there's just something about the math that just scares him. We have been adding, I've got it here, let me pull it up. Bedtime math. Love this. But anyway, this is an easier version. But the harder version for the kids is multiplication. And so we read this every night, and we do one of the word problems out loud. Luke does one for his age, and then Davis does one of the older ones. And so, it's amazing how I can throw multiplication problems out at him, and he gets it. He figures it different than what I would figure, the way he puts his numbers together, but he comes up with the answers in his mind. So where I was worried that he wasn't knowing his multiplication facts, unless it's really helped us focusing on that this past week. We've been focusing more on multiplication facts, skip counting, things like that. But, my husband was even asking him multiplication the other day, and I mean, it's just like he's getting it. And so I don't know if it's all of a sudden the light bulb has come on and he's really, really getting it, or he has known it all this time and he's always been very overwhelmed with math, and he's always been scared of math, and he can do it in he can figure math without writing it down. Is what's always blown me away. I can ask him a math problem and he can answer it, but when it's written down, he gets nervous and he starts to cry. So I'm thinking that maybe it's helped that we've kind of backed off the work, focused more on things like that. It's making him feel more at ease, more confident, and that's really the goal. I want him to not feel stupid. I want him to know he can do it. I know he can do it, and I don't want him to ever think that he can't do something well enough to the point that he wants to avoid it. So with that step back, I think it's really paying off, and thank you to all the ones who've recommended that, because it is helping a lot. So that has been wonderful. As I mentioned, Tim and Luke are still doing the science. They're doing the apology astronomy. It's always fun. We always look forward to that. We're still trucking away with that with our notebook. And little Lukey has been doing his ancient civilization, and this past week he did ancient Greece, which he loves. He is a ginormous fan of Greek mythology, and once a week we do add some Greek mythology into our school Memoria Press studies. We love that. So that is added once a week anyway. And so this past week he's done ancient Greece, and so we checked out some books from the library that talks about ancient Greece, the foods, stuff like that. He read from his Story of the World. We pieces out of that. And then this is one of my absolute favorites. I use this with Davis in the 2nd grade as part of his Sunlight curriculum, and I still pull this book out. It's one of my absolute favorites. So we read about the Olympics and things like that in that book, and we also pulled out another Usborne book that we used also as part of our curriculum in the 2nd grade from the Sunlight. So we pulled those out, and along with that, he's still doing his little folder thing. It is looking raggedy at this point, his little pocket thing, but he loves it. He made this little theater mask this week to study his for the Grease. And then, of course, I love this where they have the words and then the pictures. And then I write the definition because sometimes the definition is long, and he writes so big, being a beginner writer, that sometimes it won't fit. So I'll write those. So what I do is I'll ask him the word, and if he remembers the meaning of the word, and if he doesn't, we'll go over it. And then when he gives me the definition, I'll write it down. So I kind of copy his words. And I do that a lot with our apologia as well, because it's a lot of writing sometimes. So I'll ask him his thoughts, and then I'll write it just so it'll fit sometimes on the smaller areas that we're given to write. And then he also made the Parthenon, and this was one of his favorites, obviously, because it was Greek mythology, and with Athena here. So he did that. And we also watched some YouTube videos on this as well. So you can always find YouTube is a lifesaver a lot of times with homeschool curriculum. And then he made his little puppets. So that was his history this week. And had a lot of fun. His math, he's doing great. He always counts down, and I think he's on lesson 120. I don't know. Every time he does his math, he'll tell me, I'm on 100 in this and 100 in that. So, you know, he's still going along, and, you know, like I said last week, he'll probably finish his curriculum by January, at the most, the 1st of February. So we'll see how that goes. No rush. I'm just kind of planning ahead, thinking of what I'm going to do. I've got already 2nd grade Horizon curriculum because I used it with Davis, but I'm not sure if I want to go that route or not. I might do some of it for a review. And I love Horizons, but Davis just started getting overwhelmed with it. And I think it was moving too fast for him. We did Horizons last year with Luke. It did great. And this year we're not doing Horizons. There was a lot. The math, as anyone who is familiar with Horizons knows, the lessons can be kind of long, which is okay, but we switched out to Rod and Staff this year, which is kind of on the easy side, so that might be why he's just trekking on through. But I like it. I really like it. I also have the 4th grade Rod and Staff as well that I have pulled out some, even though Davis is doing teaching textbooks, because I have the printed papers and, you know, the speed drills. So I'll pull out the speed drills, and I don't time him because I don't ever want him to get frustrated, because I know the speed drills would really, really mess him up. But they're just, you know, the little, and I'll pull those out, you know, as a little extra practice sometimes, just because they're not intimidating because they're so small, and I just kind of pull it out until he does that. So there was that. And we have also been doing our Thanksgiving, and I'm going to do a separate video on that as far as our Thanksgiving mini units, because we have got several resources that we're combining, and I do want to share that with everyone, from movies to books to online stuff. And we're also using the pockets. And we have all these books that we're pulling out as well. And so they started their pockets. This is Davis's, yes, and then here's Luke's. They did the cornucopias, and it had recommended, you know, that we could use real leaves, but who are we? It's too messy. I didn't want to do real leaves, so we chose not to do that. So this week is what they did is they made the Mayflower, and I have an awesome book that talks just about the Mayflower, and then it's the inside of the Mayflower. So there's that, and then it's just a few facts on the Mayflower. And we just kind of added this toward the end of our lesson every day when we got wrapped up. This was just kind of like an extra, so instead of art or anything like that, we're going to be studying Thanksgiving. And then they got to do a chest, and they opened up the chest, and what it is they're going to a new world, and they could draw or write what they wanted to take with them. So this is Luke's, and instead of taking something to cut his wood, he said he was just going to take wood. So this is his wood, but Anyway, this is what Luke said he is taking to a new world if he had to go, so that's what he's going to take. And then they did this to kind of show them the path of the Mayflower and the Speedwell. So it was really neat, and we had a lot of fun with that. So all in all, I would say we had a pretty productive week. It went well. We are looking forward to starting next week. Next week is going to be crazy. Luke's got a birthday coming up, so I've got to start planning that. Luckily, he is a little creature of habit, and he still loves Minecraft and everything Minecraft. And last year was everything Minecraft. So his party last year took me weeks to plan because we made all these Minecraft characters and things like that. But I did also make our Minecraft stuff. So I've got all of that saved that I used last year. The only thing I didn't have that didn't make it was the Enderman I had built him last year. So he loved his Enderman, but it didn't make it. So I'm not going to build another Enderman this year. And instead, I'm replacing it with a ghast. So I've got to do all that this week. So we've got that coming up. So it should be an interesting week coming up. But thank you guys for taking the time and checking out our weekly update. And if anyone has any questions or comments, I'd love to hear them. So be sure and leave them down below. Thank you and have a wonderful day.